everyone wants in. The nobles, the generals, even a particularly spoiled palace cat with its own velvet pillow. The age of Persian cooling has officially begun, and as you lean back in the dry, whispering night, with stars flickering above and the faint smell of rosewater still lingering in the breeze, you realize something profound. This wasn't a story about indulgence. It was a story about ingenuity, about finding winter in the heart of summer, and about how, sometimes, the most powerful revolutions start with something as small and sweet as dessert. You step into the shade of something strange. Towering above you, baked the color of wheat and shaped like a fat beehive, stands a massive dome with no visible door. At first glance, it looks like a giant clay oven, but you're told it does the opposite. Welcome to the Yakchal, an ancient Persian refrigerator that keeps ice cold in the middle of the desert. It's quiet inside, almost too quiet. You duck through a narrow tunnel-like entrance, deliberately low to force people to bow, possibly out of respect or just architectural stubbornness, and immediately feel the temperature drop. Your sandals crunch on packed earth. The air smells faintly of straw and dust. You reach out, and the curved interior walls are cold. Not just not hot, cold. How? You look up, and there it is. The dome above you, 30 feet high at least, curves like the sky. Thick mud bricks, reinforced with ash and camel hair because Persian builders were resourceful and a little bit weird, create layers of insulation. The shape isn't decorative, it's mathematical. Hot air rises, hits the top of the dome, cools, and slides back down. Heat gets trapped at the top while the bottom, where the ice sits, is kept cool and dry. You spot the pit. It's deep, maybe 20 feet down. Some structures go even deeper. In the colder months, snow and ice were hauled in, crushed, and packed into this space, then sealed off with thick wooden lids and insulating straw. Even during the height of summer, the contents would remain frozen for weeks, sometimes months. It's kind of like walking into an air-conditioned hobbit house. If hobbits were Persian and obsessed with temperature gradients, historians still debate whether the earliest Yakchals appeared during the Achaemenid Empire or even earlier, possibly adapted from techniques in Mesopotamia. What's more certain is that the Persian version reached heights of complexity that made other civilizations jealous. Imagine being a Roman envoy, fanning yourself miserably in Alexandria, then stumbling into a Persian outpost and being handed a chilled bowl of saffron lime syrup. Cultural shock, more like temperature shock. Some rituals that would have been seen as sacred. In fact, some texts hint that ceremonial ice was brought out for festivals, tiny miracles glistening under the sun. You step deeper inside, brushing past a sleeping cat stretched on the cool floor. Someone's been here recently. You spot half-melted footprints in the dust, and a few empty ceramic jars with condensation still clinging to their rims. Probably a palace servant or a cook prepping for tonight's feast. There's another element to this structure you hadn't considered. Ventilation shafts. Thin chimneys poke through the top like straw holes in a lid designed to allow hot air to escape. You can hear a faint whistle, like the dome is sighing, relieved to exhale. As your eyes adjust, you notice markings on the inner wall, symbols and notes. They look like records of inventory, date, weight, recipes. One sketch looks suspiciously like a frozen date cluster. Out in the desert sun, it's easy to think of ancient peoples as primitive, sweaty, dusty, inventing the wheel and high-fiving each other for figuring out bread. But inside this dome, you realize that primitive is a lazy word. These were people who built structures so advanced that they still function, to some degree, over 2,000 years later. Think about that the next time your freezer breaks and ruins your popsicles. Outside the yakchal, workers tend a shaded pool. You think it's decorative until one of them tosses in a bucket of water and explains, in a tone that's 50% proud, 50% smug, that this shallow basin is used to make ice. On cold desert nights, when the air drops below freezing, they pour water into these pools. Let nature do the work. Then collect the thin ice layers in the morning and stack them into the dome's pit. Evaporative cooling, radiant heat loss, insulation, airflow management. It's like a TED Talk sponsored by Pottery. You sit under a fig tree nearby and watch the day unfold. A team of men unroll fresh bundles of straw. Another repairs the dome's outer shell with a mix of clay and silt. You can't help but admire the routine. This isn't frantic, panicked survival. This is precision. They've been doing this for generations. One of the laborers, his hands cracked and stained with mud, offers you a small ceramic cup. Inside is a chilled drink, sour cherry and rose, just a little syrupy. It's cold, like actually cold. You sip, and your brain does that little, wait, what? Pause, confused about why your tongue just got winter in summer. The man laughs at your expression. We have good domes, he says, patting the yakchal like it's a beloved donkey. And you nod, because honestly, you've never been more impressed by a pile of dirt. There's something comforting in the humbleness of it. No wires, no fans, no magic. Just clay, air, water, and cleverness, and all in service of one goal, making the unbearable just a bit more bearable. As the sun begins to set and the sky turns the color of apricots, you sit against the warm outside wall of the dome. The yakchal radiates cool from the inside out. You press your palm to it and feel that impossible chill humming through the ancient bricks. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, but it's real, a quiet miracle built by people who refused to accept the heat. And somewhere inside, the ice sleeps, waiting to become tomorrow's dessert. You wake up early, before the sun can bake your thoughts into a slow soup, and follow the low sound of camel bells jingling like sleepy wind chimes. Out past the edge of the city, where the horizon blurs into a sea of beige, a long caravan is already moving. And not just any caravan. This one is hauling snow. Yes, actual snow. In the desert. Wrapped like a secret, packed into bundles with layers of reeds and straw, and strapped onto the backs of mildly disgruntled camels who seem deeply unimpressed by the whole concept. You join the group as they march across the sands. The camels grunt. The handlers hum old tunes. The wind kicks up a powdery mist, and everything tastes faintly of dust and regret. One handler turns to you and says, "The trick is to move fast and mostly at night. Otherwise," he slaps the side of one camel, "we just become snow delivery men with wet saddlebags." This is the unsung part of the ice miracle, the part that doesn't get immortalized in shiny palatial murals. Every winter, these caravans leave the lowlands and head into the mountains, places like Zagros or Alborz, where the snow falls heavy, thick, and clean. They work in teams, digging out blocks of snow, pressing them into tight bundles, then insulating them in straw and animal skins. Then begins the slow, dusty return through unforgiving terrain. Historians still argue whether the Persian snow trade was systematized with state oversight, or simply driven by merchant ingenuity. It was likely both. Part royal command, part entrepreneurial hustle. Whatever the case, you now walk among the people who made it happen, and it's not glamorous. One camel has stopped entirely. He's lying in the sand like an overturned rug, refusing to move until someone bribes him with dates. Another has unceremoniously dropped a snow bundle, which now has to be quickly rewrapped before it melts into a sad puddle of yesterday's labor. Still, the mood is oddly upbeat. These handlers know they're part of something important, even if they won't be the ones nibbling on saffron sorbet later. As one old man says with a shrug, "Let the kings eat ice. We carry it. They can thank us with silver and shade." You pass an outpost by a small stream where broken pots lie scattered. This used to be a cooling station, a place to rest during the long haul. The clay pots, called zier jars, once held water that cooled through slow evaporation. You watch as a young boy fills a new pot and buries it halfway into the earth. "Coolest water in 100 miles, he brags. You sip. He's not wrong. By nightfall, the caravan nears a yakshal. The dome looms in the darkness like a silent guardian. You help unload the bundles and carry them into the pit. Even after days in the desert, the snow is surprisingly intact, proof that the ancient insulation methods work. The workers line the ice pit with straw, lay the blocks, and then, just like layering a cake, pack in more straw between each slab. Someone whistles a tune while doing it, like they're making dessert instead of storing it. Technically, they're doing both. A young girl arrives with a tray of drinks, rose water again, this time mixed with mint and just enough chill to make your teeth politely object. She points proudly to the dome and says, "My grandfather helped build it, said it would outlive us all." You believe her. There's a kind of poetry to all this, the mingling of labor, landscape, and knowledge passed down like a family recipe. No one here needs a thermometer to understand temperature. They read the wind, feel the sand, know when the desert is ready to surrender to the chill, if only briefly. Nearby, a group of camels are chewing thoughtfully, their snow-hauling duties complete for the day. One looks at you with the blank, judgmental expression camels always have. You imagine he's thinking, "You'd melt faster than the snow if you had to haul it." He's not wrong. You lie back on the sand, using your bundled robe as a pillow. Overhead, the stars come out one by one, like tiny ice crystals scattered across a velvet sky. You can still hear the distant sound of shovels, soft laughter, and the unmistakable crunch of snow being stacked. Not many people today think about how ancient dessert got from mountain top to